we are going to look at some candidates who contest for seats while very sure that they'll not win. I'm not even talking of somebody who comes close, or there is somebody, I've forgotten his name, who in the 60s and 70s used to contest the Mathare seat. He was a lawyer, contested around 4 times, and he always was number 2. I'm not even talking of Jael Mbogo, who nearly won the Bahati seat and who was responsible for making Emilio Mwai Kibaki move from Nairobi to Othaya. She contested twice against him and she was number 2. When he went to Othaya, she contested against Dr. James Morioki twice and she was number 2. I'm not talking of such people. With a realistic, and some even say that they were rigged out. I'm talking of somebody who, when he or she applies or takes the move of having his or her name on the ballot paper, knows from the word go that he or she stands little or no chance of winning, yet they still contest. I am also not talking about people. We have some people who contest. I can give an example of a constituency called Kasipul Kabondo. Kasipul Kabondo was divided into 2. One now goes by the name Kabondo, and the other one now goes by the name Kabondo Kasipul. Because the second constituency was given a reverse name. In Kasipul Kabondo of yesteryears, there are 2 sub-tribes of the Luo. One is called Kasipul, and the other one is called Kabondo. Now, whenever there was an election, this time they would say, let a person from Kasipul be the MP. Then the next time, they say, let a person from Kabondo become the MP. They used to have that problem until somehow they got confused, and the tribal political supreme decided to place somebody there called Jimmy Ahenda. Jimmy Ahenda came from, I don't know whether he's alive or not, with the due respect, but there are some game people, in that area who settled there. So he decided, the political and tribal supreme decided to place there a neutral person. But the way Jimmy Ahenda misbehaved and even talked things which are unprintable, he has never seen the parliament again unless he has gone there as a guest. We also have that problem in Kisumu. It's called 4K. 4K, there is Kano, there is Kajulu, and some other case. So they used to rotate that way. And then the tribal and political supreme decided that the position should be given to a non-Kenyan, a non-African, an Indian Kenyan, an Indian Kenyan. That's how Shabil became, first of all, the mayor of Kisumu, and then later the MP. So we have some people who contest elections to settle the arithmetics. If we were talking about Kasipul Kabondo, you may find that they are almost the same in population. Now, if I know that me and you will stand 50-50 chances, I may convince somebody from your sub-tribe to contest that seat. So the person appears to be against me, while in essence, he is for me. Or he appears to be a third force, but whereas I want to take all the votes in my sub-tribe, and you and that person, suppose we are, the two sub-tribes in the constituency are 50-50. The person whom I secretly sponsor may win at most 4%. Now, me, I will get 50%, you will get 46%, and that person will get 4%. I'm only giving an example. So we have those people who contest because of that. But we have some people who contest with no possibility of winning. I know of one who contested with a possibility of not winning, but he later came and won. I was in charge of intelligence of Sigor sub-county now. Sigor sub-county, starting from, if I were to mention the places, you'll be confused. But if you know where Ortum Mission Hospital is, all the way to to Elgeyo Marakwet, and all the way to Kainuk in Turkana. I was the intelligence officer in charge of that place. That time, we had only 2 constituencies in West Pokot. One was what is now Kacheliba sub-county and Alale sub-county. That one used to be called Pokot West constituency. And the rest of it, Kapenguria, Chepareria, and Sigor were Pokot East. Although immediately after this instance, there was a third constituency which was created called Kapenguria constituency. Now, we used to get intelligence. That the then MP used to be called James Korelach. And we used to hear there was, he used to quarrel. He used to have differences with the Lotodo. Now Lotodo was the MP for Pokot West. And they used to have the political differences. And intelligence we had gathered was that Lotodo had, we used to get intelligence that Lotodo had placed there somebody called Christopher Lomada. He had placed there Christopher Lomada to make sure that Korelach was busy. And all estimates and whatever we had made, we knew that there's no way Christopher Lomada would win that election. Not even win, would be near that seat. So there was one day, we had only one Land Rover in the whole district, which was being used by the boss. But if there was a very important meeting and you had to move for a long distance, he would send the driver to come and pick you, and you go there. I was a constable. The driver was Sergeant John Maswa Matiang'i. Yes, Matiang'i, like the minister. But they are not related, because John Maswa Matiang'i, I hear he's now deceased. He was a Sabaot from Mount Elgon, and later even became a councillor and even the county council chairman. So Sergeant John Maswa Matiang'i was sent to come and collect me, and we go to Chesegon. There used to be two towns. There are two towns. There are two towns. There is Kesegon. Kesegon is at the border of West Pokot and Trans Nzoia. And then there is the Chesegon. Chesegon is at the border of Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot. So you are to travel from Sigor to Chesegon to cover a public meeting. And he was a sergeant. So there was a silent seniority there. He was a senior person because he was a sergeant and I was a constable. And I was a senior person because I was in charge of the vehicle. So we went up to Chesegon, which is a distance from Sigor. You go to Lomut. You leave the road towards Amaler, and then you go straight up to Cheptulel. Cheptulel, I'm remembering those places, and then you go to Chesegon. At Chesegon, there was that public meeting, people met, and just like in any other public meeting, we have the high table, and then we have the other table. So we went to the other table, we lined up, and John Maswa Matiang'i not introduced, but pinpointed a certain person somewhere and said, do you know that person? I said, I don't know the person. He said that person was Christopher Lomada. I said, yeah. The gadfly said yes. So we had our meals, and as we were going to go back, Christopher Lomada came to me and requested for a lift from Chesegon all the way to Kapenguria. I told him, you see there's this silent seniority. Said, Sergeant, can you look into that? So I said, but you are in charge of the vehicle. So I told him, okay, Mheshimiwa, that is the time I used the word Mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa, you can travel with us. And he went. At the back of the Land Rover, there were police officers with guns. There were police officers with guns, G3 rifles. He went and sat there with them. I said, no, Mheshimiwa, you are going to be an MP. You cannot sit at the back. You go and sit in the front with the driver. Me, I'll sit at the back. After all, I was a constable like the others. Then he said, no, let us go and sit in front, the two of us. We went, and it was a struggle to convince him to see, first of all, to sit in the front. And then when he went to the front, he wanted to sit in the middle between him and the driver. But you see, that Land Rover, we were so used to sitting at the back and occasionally in the center. So I compelled him to sit at the end, and I sat between him and the driver. We went up to Sigor, where I alighted, and they went on. But between Chesegon and Sigor, which is a distance, I would say, if I'm not wrong, it is just the same distance as from Nairobi to Thika. So he kept asking me, Bwana Intelligence Officer, how are you seeing my possibility? But you see, intelligence officers, we are very careful. We are very careful with what we say, because any misspeaking may be interpreted as the government's view. So I told him, no, bwana, people are just waiting for the election day, and you you are the next MP. Of course, Lotodo, he's not liked and whatever. I was telling him, because it is only the driver who was hearing and such things. If I were to tell him you stand no chance, politicians, he would even say that the government has planted Korelach there. So I told him that, and soon after I was transferred to, I was transferred to Northeastern, a transfer that I had applied to go to Northeastern. I had applied to go to Mandera, but I was taken to Wajir. Immediately I went to Wajir. I attended an special inspector's course. That application also assisted me in, because they needed a few people for the Form 6s, and already the bosses had been told that among those being interviewed, there's one who had applied from operation area to operation area, something that was unheard of that time. So here I was later. A year later, I was a sub-inspector. A year later, I was a sub-inspector in Habaswein, which today is called Wajir South. And Lomada went and won the election against James Korelach. The president made him Assistant Minister for Agriculture, together with Dr. Noah Wekesa. Dr. Noah Wekesa was born, and his father is buried in my village, a place called Lohoho in Luandeti. So whenever I used to visit Dr. Noah Wekesa, Lomada would insist that I was his guest. And you people are born in the same village, but this fellow, and he used to tell Dr. Noah Wekesa that there was a time he had seen that he was losing the elections, and he said that he wanted to have a view from an intelligence officer to know whether he can continue and not. And he said the way I was so convinced that he would win made him change his mind. Otherwise, he had made his mind to not to contest. So I've given examples of people who contested while knowing that they'll not win, but later on, there are even others who contested elections, but then in future elections, you find that the person you are contesting against, after you lose, for him to block you in the next election, he appoints you in the parastate or something. So those are people. But we have people who contest elections knowing that at best, ni kutingiza miti tu. Who expected Inspector Wajakoya to even win an election? There are those like him who contest for publicity, and so on and so on. But many of them I've seen, they contest with the intention. You see, it is during Moi's time, being called Mheshimiwa was a hard thing. Of course, as an ex-inspector, I don't mind being called inspector. Once an MP, always an MP. I don't mind former MPs or former councillors or former senators still being called senator or governor or whatever. That is okay. But Kenyans have come up with a certain way where you just have to appear on a ballot paper, get at most a dozen votes. After getting a dozen votes, then from there forever you'll be called Mheshimiwa. We attend meetings, welfare, or even neighborhood meetings, and you find somebody when he's introducing himself, he says, I'm Honorable James Huatenge. Then while people are sitting, say, has this fellow been ever an MC or something? Say, no. His name appeared on the ballot paper. What an expensive way to buy a name.